Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. This is the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey, and I can't help but smile because I can say with me as always, my good friend Drew Crawley. Um, this we were chatting a little bit before I hit record, and Drew said this feels familiar, and I said, yeah. When I clicked you into the studio, it felt really good. So Drew, welcome back, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Um, well, we're going to catch up with Drew on a whole lot of stuff here in just a minute. But before we do that, I do want to tell you about Barcart Co-op. Barcart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiasts. We have shows like Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. Alan and Christy will talk with distillers from across the country and around the world about anything and everything in terms of distillation. Speaking of distillation, Alan also has a show called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. Maybe you're a distiller. Maybe you're a distiller as a career. Maybe you're as a distiller, you work in your backyard or your basement or out in the woods somewhere so you don't get caught by the revenuers. You got a question about anything in terms of distillation, shoot Alan a message. He'll post a video response and we'll all be rewarded by your curiosity. Alan also has a show called If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. And on this show, he departs from the whiskey world and gets into the spiritual, the supernatural, the unusual. You name it, Alan will touch on it in this show. My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. Be sure to join these guys as they have some wonderful guests, some interesting tastings, and it's always fun to hang out with the folks in the chat. Whiskey in My Wedding Ring with David Levine. David is an excellent writer. He has a blog where he will post reviews, and he has a podcast where he'll post interviews that he does with distillers. Be sure to check that out. And then you got our little show here. If you are watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. We would love for you to join us each and every week. If you like your content in the podcast format, we can help you there too. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or Google, and we will get into more of that at the end of the show. But right now, let's just talk with Drew. How are
Howdy.
you? How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Doing
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Life's been busy and full, as you well know, but
Hmm.
for the listeners, the last 6 months have been massive amounts of transition.
Yes.
So, became a husband, got married back in May,
Hmm.
found out about my little daughter. So I
Yes.
now have a 2.5-year-old running around in my life, which is awesome. And then launching this record. So
Yeah.
between that and working a normal day job and all the stresses that brings, it's been a very full couple of months, but a lot of joy and a lot of
Yeah.
beauty and all of that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That and all of it good.
Yes.
All of it
Yes.
good. Even things that could have been meant for not good have been good
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
are good and will continue to be better. So,
Indeed. Indeed.
well, all right, man, I'm about to cry here. All right, so let's get into something else for just a little bit.
Sure.
One of the things that our show was our little show was honored with, and it was back when you were still um, beside me the whole time. Uh, our friend Nancy Fraley, who's been a guest on the show a couple of times, she had reached out to me, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago or something, and she said, "Hey, I'm putting together blends for Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend, and I've got one that I would like to name after Bourbon Turntable. Would that be okay?" Yes, yes, it would.
Of course. Yeah.
So if you're playing along at home, it is batch 187, and there was quite a quest to find a bottle of it, and to no real success for me. And then our mutual friend Mark Krebs was able to find one and gave it to me at one of our Bourbon Fellowship meetings. So
Indeed.
we've got a bottle of that now, and it does not say Bourbon Turntable on the bottle, but if you go to the website, it does, and that's the text and the description that Nancy put out. Um, she said that it's a tribute to the YouTube whiskey channel of the same name, Bourbon Turntable, and the passion for vinyl records and whiskey, which the hosts Kevin and Drew share with master blender Nancy Fraley.
Mm.
So that's fun. That was fun, wasn't
Love that. Yeah. And it's also freaking delicious, besides
it?
just being a massive
Yes.
honor.
So
Delightful whiskey.
cheers.
Cheers, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing this. Mm.
Yep. If I could find another one, I'd buy 10. But
Yep.
they're just hard to find. Anyway, so what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. In the interest of full transparency, this is the second time I've had a pour of this. But a lot of the nose to me
Mhm.
is a little bit contracted. It took me a minute to kind of get into it, but as it aerates more, I get a little bit of honeycomb,
Mhm.
get a little bit of like kind of a nutty toffee kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Um, the thing that I took away, like, we used to joke all the time about fat guy tasting notes.
Mhm.
A Toblerone bar. You've got the toffee, you've got the nut, and then you've got a little bit of that rich,
Right.
kind of
Yep. I
confectionery
like
note.
that.
So that's kind of what I take away from it, at least on, second sip. What about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I think there's a in the taste, there's like a frosted spice cake note in
Mm,
there. And then of course you get a little tobacco in it, which
hmm
you would expect in a cigar blend. Um, but yeah, it's just fantastic, and a
really good.
little bit of cinnamon in there too. As I'm
Hmm
sitting here, that's still kind of popping around in my mouth. So yeah, it was very cool, and we're very thankful to Nancy for that honor. And if anybody out there runs across a bottle of batch 187, let me know. I will find a way to take it off your hands.
Absolutely.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's very good. So you touched on some of the things that have been different for you
Certainly.
lately.
Yeah.
Um, and all of that is very good. Um, and excited for you and for Caitlin, and all that the great things that brings. Um, but let's talk a little about music. Uh,
Sure.
what all have you been getting into in the past year? Either
Yeah.
revisiting older stuff, or listening to new stuff, or maybe some things that inspired you during the writing and production of the album.
Yeah, definitely. So a couple things there. One, I'll just kind of give this caveat up front. If I am in the process of making my own music, it's really hard for me to listen to other people's music without taking it in.
Yep.
And Our mutual friend Lorenzo, he's a musical genius. He listens to
Hmm.
everything and understands everything. He's like, "Did you listen to this record recently?" If I come in with a new idea, so I've tried to kind of press
Hmm.
pause on a lot of listening.
There's
Uh,
Lorenzo,
hey, there's the guy.
and I'm
Um,
rocking his studio hat there.
Indeed, indeed. But as far as like this last music, I found a lot of inspiration in terms of going to live shows. So spent
Hmm.
a good amount of time doing that. We've seen Glass Animals and Dayglow and Tommy Prime. We did Bourbon and Beyond this year
Hmm.
rather than Bonnaroo because weddings are expensive, as you well know, since your son
Yes.
just got married.
Yes.
So we didn't want to do Bonnaroo this year just budgetarily, but so we got to see a lot of artists that I really love: Shane Smith and the Saints,
Hmm.
Zach Bryan, Tyler Childers, Whiskey Myers. Just a lot of really good live music in the last few months. As far as new things I've been listening to, been really into an artist called Medium Build. There's a
Medium build. Okay.
record called Country, um, and it's definitely kind of a line between like I would say like Appalachian country and indie rock. So
Okay.
it's a really cool sound. Enjoyed that. There's an artist called Role Model that I've been getting into in the last probably week or so.
Hmm.
Um, really good record out. For those that may have um, familiarity, it's kind of a cross between Rex Orange County and Noah Kahn. Uh, so good singer songwriter stuff there. And then the other one is Nothing Nowhere. I know we've talked about Nothing Nowhere
Hmm.
a few times on the show, but he is inspiring the heck out of me because he just released his fourth studio album of 2024. And it is very, very impressive. A prolific artist, to say nothing. But if you ever play the Tony Hawk Pro Skater video games,
Yes.
Nothing Nowhere. So it's kind of a throwback from my high school days. But he's doing new music and stuff like that. So that's kind of where my head's been at. Yeah, I would say medium build, Role Model, and Nothing Nowhere. It's kind of what I've
Very
been
cool.
listening to. So
Very
yeah,
cool. Yeah, I've listened to some of Nothing Nowhere, but I don't know the other two, so I'll have to check those out.
yeah,
That's cool.
definitely. What
That's
about
cool.
you? I know we text offline, but for the listeners.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of what I listen to is are artists that end up being on the show. I've got the Cold Stares new album here, and I've
Yes.
got the Mojo Thunder new album.
Both
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, and those guys are great. Had band Revelry on last week. Last week, yeah, last week, and they're just really really good, and had some great conversations with those guys. Um, so it's a lot of what I listen to is revolves around who I'm having as guests on the show, just because I like to be very familiar and be able to ask good questions. And
Sure.
um, but that's where a lot of my focus has been over the last several weeks. Um, so got a band coming on from Germany called Dear Robin,
Okay.
and they're kind of a bit of a blues rock band from Germany, and looking forward to talking with them and digging deep into their music because everything I've heard so far has been really good.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah,
shoot me a couple tracks I need to start with. And
yeah, I
I'll
will,
dig into them
I
too.
will,
That's cool.
I will. And you've been playing a lot live lately,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. As anyone who's tried to make a record knows, that is rather expensive.
Hmm.
And so we've been kind of in finalizing this record, taking a lot of bar gigs, cover band shows, played all over Louisville, bars, restaurants, festivals, done a couple of private events, birthday parties, retirement parties, weddings. So just,
Weddings, bar mitzvahs.
if your
Yeah,
check will clear, I will come play. Has been the theme of the last 6 months or so, but
yeah.
it's been really really good, and you know the folks here in Louisville really have seemed to kind of connect in a cool new way. And with nothing prideful about it, I think there's been something that's clicked for me in the last little while
Hmm.
about even the cover band gigs.
Hmm.
Really trying to play homage to the artists that mean a lot to me.
Yep.
And so being able to kind of share a little bit of myself, even when I'm playing other people's songs, and not just playing, hey, I know this will get tips, and I know this will be what
Right.
people want to ask for. So that's been a fun
Yeah.
transition.
Still no Morgan Wallen. Yeah.
No Morgan Wallen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing nice to say about that man.
Well, I when I hear people talk about him, I always trash him too. So
Good, thank you.
no
Join the
talent,
cause. Everyone
no
join the cause.
no talent, racist hack. So um, maybe we'll get sued by him. That would be cool.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, he can come for my nothing. Good luck. Good stuff.
What about on the whiskey side of things? Anything that you've been
Yeah.
sipping on lately that's really good?
Hmm. Um, I've been cutting back on my drinking as a whole,
Hmm.
but I've had a couple of really good Old Forester rye picks
Hmm.
in the last couple of weeks. There's a new shop down in Nulu called Goldie's. Are you familiar? Have you been down there
No, I've
yet?
not been there yet.
Okay. So it's attached to Bar Nada Nada and Grindberger, right there on Market Street.
Yeah.
And they've just recently opened. So they've got a bunch of new store picks and things like that that I've enjoyed. And they're priced relatively fairly. They've got a couple things that are a little ridiculous. Actually,
Mhm.
when I texted you on Sunday morning that
Yeah.
Weller 12 for
Yeah.
$270 or whatever it was that they wanted for it, that was
Right.
at Goldie's. So
Okay.
they have some things that are a little higher. But their store pick program is really good. Other than that, I think I've pretty much been sticking to the classics.
Yeah.
Had some really good stuff when you and I and Mike went out to Alan Bishop's
Yeah.
new home at an old homestead.
Yeah.
Had a lot of good whiskey that day.
Yeah.
um,
That was
eh, some
just
good
really cool stuff.
moonshine, some good
Yes.
absinthe,
Yeah.
a cantaloupe liqueur, which was insane,
Yeah.
um, but really good. But yeah, for the most part, I'm kind of chilling out
Yeah.
as I have entered this new phase of life of realizing that I don't recover as fast as I used to, and it's really hard to be a dad and husband if I have bourbon in me every night. But
Yes,
say la vie.
that is true. A lot of people will do the uh, September bourbon every night thing,
Hmm.
or they'll do sober January or sober October,
Yeah.
and I I don't really participate in any of those because I don't want to feel like I've got to drink something every night during
Hmm.
the month of September because there's sometimes I don't want to, don't need to.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
the same way with the, sober months. You know, I don't I don't want or need to feel compelled that I've got to do that.
Sure.
How about you? Do you participate in any of that?
Yeah, I've done sober October couple of times over the years. It's
Mhm,
usually fun, if you get a group of friends together and it's like, oh, we're gonna all hit the gym, and everybody
mhm,
loses 15 pounds and all that
right,
kind of stuff. But I think more important than that is, and absolutely, if you need to take a month off, please by all means
sure,
take a month off. But for me, I don't think an imposed thing like that externally is super helpful if I'm trying to get things under control or be healthy in a particular way, whether that be physically or mentally.
mhm,
It's more just, hey, if I don't need to drink 5 nights a week, okay, well, I just won't drink
right,
5 nights out of the week,
right,
and Friday and Saturday I'll have a couple with friends. But then if we're in the month of October and Mike comes to town or Patrick comes to town or I'm celebrating the album release,
right,
I want to have a couple on
right,
those nights with those people. So yeah, it doesn't really hold a lot of luster to me. I've participated in it and it's great, but
yep,
eh, not this. Not
yeah,
at least in the last couple of years, it
yeah,
doesn't hold any draw for me.
yeah. No, if I've, for whatever reason, hit a couple of nights in a row kind of heavy, then I just need to take a break for, 2, 3, 4 days. And,
Hmm.
that to me is more important than, hey, I'm going to drink something different every night in the month of September.
Right.
But
Right.
because
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
one pour leads to that night leads to a second one, or let me try a couple things and see what I want to do
Hmm.
tomorrow. And
Right. Right.
so it can get
Yeah.
away from you.
For sure. For
Yep.
sure. No, it's good. I think we've talked about this a lot, in our friendship and on this show, but
Mhm.
it's making sure you keep it in check.
Right.
In whatever that looks like for you. If you're somebody that can have one or two a night and be fine, by all means, more power to you. If
Yep.
you're somebody that needs to do 1 to 2 a week, or if you're somebody that needs to hang it up entirely, just
Right.
you gotta be in touch with yourself on those things. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Uh, yeah. I had a friend that told me once. He said, I just. He said, um, I don't have a problem saying no. I have a problem saying stop.
Mm-hmm.
So that you know yourself, you know what parameters you need to exist under, and if that's what it is for you, then uh, go for it. Good for you. You know.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, have you had the high wheat? from Bardstown Bourbon Company.
I have not. That's on my list of things to hunt down.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
yes, well worth.
What's the recipe on that, if you don't mind me asking? If you know, and it's
Hang on,
okay if not. I'm in
I got it
nerd
somewhere.
mode tonight.
Hang on. Well, I thought I had it somewhere.
All good.
Well, no, I
No,
can't find it.
that's okay. And is that available at their tasting room
Yep,
here?
yep,
Okay.
and you can find it at stores and such too. It's I don't know, 45 to $50, something like that.
That's not bad at all.
But I think it's like 37% wheat.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe like 51% corn, 37% wheat, something like that. It's a barely bourbon, you know,
Sure.
and then a very high wheat content, and then the rest of it's malted barley. But
Hey,
really good.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
the Origin series stuff that they do, it just knocks it out of the park.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, speaking of newer brands, have you gotten
Mhm.
a chance to hit any of the new tasting experiences down in Louisville? Like the new area, Pursuit Spirits, Monks Road, any of those?
I have not. Whiskey Thief is
Hmm.
opening theirs uh, this coming weekend as we're
Oh, no
recording
kidding.
this. Yep,
Did not know that. Okay.
yep. So it'll be in Nulu as well. So
Awesome.
yeah. Now there's some of those places I just need to, hit up and see what the deal is. I've been to some of the ones that have been there for a while, but have not been to Monks Road yet. But I'll probably try to get to Whiskey Thief pretty quickly.
Very good.
Those are good
Well, I
folks.
think maybe we need to get a posse together and go do a Saturday day drinking episode or something.
I think
That
that's a
would be
good
fun.
idea. I think that's sound idea. I
Good.
like that a lot. You've got, and we've alluded to it a little bit here. You have an album coming out.
Yes, sir.
Hard to hold.
Hard to hold. Yep. So that'll be available anywhere that you listen to music on October the 18th at midnight. So
Hmm.
very, very excited about that project. Very proud of that. I don't know
Hmm.
how much you want to get into now, but I cannot wait
Yep.
to let that thing finally be out in the world. It's been almost 2.5 year process
Yep.
of writing that record, scrapping 50% of the songs that got written for it and then some.
Yep.
uh Countless hours in the studio, trying things live, trying things in rehearsals, trying things in the
Yep.
studio. And I think we finally whittled it down to what it needs to be, so I'm very,
Yep.
very excited about that.
Good.
October 18th, wherever you listen to music.
Yep.
And then for the folks that are local, it will end up being available on vinyl as well.
Awesome.
And
Well,
yeah, good little slide there. What did you want to say something on
no,
that?
I was just going to say, and then you'll be doing the album release party at the
Yes, yeah,
world famous Monarch.
absolutely. So, yeah, if you're in Louisville, Southern Indiana, Bardstown, Lexington, anywhere that you can drive to Louisville, October 17th, we're doing a release show at the Monarch. Such a special place. I know you and I both share an affinity
Mm-hmm.
for that spot. But the Monarch has really kind of become home base for me for music. And a lot of this record and the things that you'll hear was written there. But I'm excited to get to launch that at that club with the friends that helped make
Mm-hmm.
this record possible. So it's a BYOB space. There's no cover charge, no tickets. Just come and support the artist in whatever ways that you can. And my good buddy Earl Bowman is going to be kicking off the
Mm-hmm.
show at 8. So he's got some new music coming out, and then me and the boys will be playing the record front to back. And then we're going to have a little special appearance by Glory Days, and he and I cut a duet that will be exclusively available on the vinyl version of the record.
Ooh, all
But
right.
you'll get to hear it that night.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in attendance, you'll get to hear that. And we're gonna have merch and a sign up for the vinyls. Unfortunately, vinyls take a really, really long time to make. But if you're there that night, you'll get a chance to make sure that you get an opportunity to purchase that. So, yeah, looking
Awesome.
forward to that night. And I was talking to some friends last night. I'm so excited to kind of cross that finish line. I think
Yeah.
the 17th will be a good moment. And then at midnight, when I see that the record's live on all platforms and stuff, I might breathe for the first time in
Yeah.
a year. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that'll be great. So maybe we just party the night away at the Monarch till midnight hits, and then
I'm A-okay
uh,
with that plan.
yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like
And
an idea.
have you seen the hats?
No, I have not.
Okay. This is only one of them, but it's going to
Well,
be
hang on,
these.
hang on. Let me get you up
Yeah.
here.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Drew Crawley.
So
Yeah.
the Wannabe Cowboy Club. And then we'll have some album specific ones that say "Hard to Hold." They're black and white hat,
Yeah,
and then you'll have a chance to get the record on vinyl as well. So
that's awesome. I
that's my
love it.
shameless plug. I have a wife that is very talented when it comes to marketing and merchandising, and she's like,
Yes.
"We have to do hats." So
I
my kitchen and guest bedroom are currently full of boxes of hats.
I love it. We'll have to talk about hats. I want to get some bourbon turntable hats too. So
Absolutely,
maybe I can hire your wife as a marketing consultant. How about that?
I think she'd be down for it. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Good.
let's let's start talking about the album. Before we do that, you had said to me we were talking about, okay, what are we going to drink on the show?
Yeah.
Obviously this bourbon turntable cigar blend was one thing, but the other, you said that during the recording of the album that you were drinking a lot of Old Forester 1920.
Indeed.
So tell everybody about Old Forester 1920.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm no longer a representative of Brown Foreman, but this is as close as you can get in their estimation of a prohibition style whiskey from Old Forester. So, you've got the standard Old Forester mash bill, standard Old
Mhm,
Forester yeast strain. But the thing that's unique about this is it goes into the barrel at a prohibition strength, which for Brown Foreman and Old Forester at the time was 110. It's
mhm,
bottled at 115 proof. So that's about as close as it would have gotten over the course of 4 years pre Brown Forman moving to the heat cycled warehouses. There is no chill filtration, no carbon filtration, anything like that on this. The only thing that goes into this is water to ensure that it's 115 proof.
mhm.
Um, and I've shied away from the barrel proof stuff over time. You get burnt out on certain things and lighting your palate on fire. But this one's always kind of stuck out to me as kind of the favorite thing that Old Forester has. And both myself and Lorenzo and a couple of the other people that play with us regularly really like this one. It reminds me a lot of pecan pie, and it's got a little smoke to it, a little bit of tobacco note, a lot of that kind of caramel, nutty, and a little bit of chocolate taste too. So
Yep.
this is just kind of the favorite, and I think the couple times that you've been able to join us at the studio down in Nashville, we've had a
Mhm.
bottle or six of this going around. So yeah.
Yeah. No, of the Old Forester products, the 1920 is probably my favorite.
Hmm.
Some people go for the 1910, the double oak. To me, it's too campfire-ish.
Yeah.
But I like the
Very
1920.
sweet.
Yeah, yeah, I like the 1920. So let's talk about the album. How about that?
Sure.
So
Happy to.
album is called "Hard to Hold," and I know that's
Yes.
a lyric from "Wannabe Cowboy."
Indeed.
Um, any other specific reason to call it "Hard to Hold"?
Yeah. So, kind of in the process of writing this record, and I'm gonna give a long answer to a short question if that's okay.
That's
Um,
the way it's supposed to work.
okay,
Short
cool.
question, longer answer.
So basically, in the process of writing this record, I think I wrote between 24 and 26 songs, or at least started them
Mhm,
in the course of getting to the nine that are going to end up on the record. And um, that part of my story is addiction and dealing with shame
mhm,
and kind of all the things that go into that, whether that be with family, whether that be with religion, whether that be around substances, whether that be, romantic relationships, friendships, all of those things kind of come into play. And the last project I released, Tower Songs, was
Mhm.
reckoning with the person that I was,
Mhm.
of just really being, uh, for lack of a better phrase, and forgive me, but just kind of in the shit of life and
Mhm.
really wrestling with that. And then, I became a much happier person.
Mhm.
I've got 3 years clean, no
Yep.
powders, no pills, no anything of that nature. And uh, fell in love and
Mhm.
dealt with all this kind of stuff. And I think in the back of my mind, um, I had this assumption that because I wasn't doing cocaine and pills anymore, that everything was going to be okay.
Mhm.
And what I realized over the course of writing this record and being in therapy and dealing with certain things with my wife and my friendships and all those other things is that was step one out of about 100
Mhm.
that really needed to change for me to be okay, and
But
to
but
move
a
forward in
but
life.
the necessary first step.
Necessary first step,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes, absolutely. But hard to hold kind of became a phrase that
Mhm.
echoed around in my brain writing this record, where it was, you are not necessarily, and by you I mean me, am not necessarily the easiest person to love and get along with, because just being on not on drugs
Yep.
was only step one. I had a lot of anger, a lot of shame, a lot of tendency to deceive or front or anything like that, that
Mhm.
really needed to be dealt with. And so, my hope in both the title of the record and in the songs that showed up was that other people would be given the same gift that I've been,
Mhm.
from other writers of, hey, just because you have some stuff to deal with doesn't mean you're not worthy of love. And just because you're going through it and
Mhm.
you might screw things up from time to time, doesn't mean that you're not worthy of love.
Right.
So hard to hold was kind of a thesis statement at the start, and
Yep.
then my hope is over the course of writing and continuing to grow as a person and continuing to change things, that maybe I might be slightly less hard to hold on to. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
again, long answer to a short question, but
No,
that's kind of the thought process behind that.
no, exactly the perfect answer. And you referenced Tower Songs, and
Hmm.
that came out in January of 22, if I
Yep.
remember correctly.
Yep.
Um, so the I know that your state of mind or where you were personally when you're writing the songs on Tower Songs is vastly different than Hard to Hold. And I'll say Tower Songs is difficult for me to listen to.
Sure. Well, you were
um,
walking with
I,
me
I
through a lot
I
of that.
I know what was going on
Yeah,
in the lyrics of that, and it, great songs, but it's just they're still not easy to listen to.
of course.
But there is a decidedly different tone in Hard to Hold.
Hmm.
There are some very positive songs there.
Yeah.
I think most of them relate to your lovely wife, but there's also some continued introspection. So I think the answer that you gave to that first question fits when you listen to the albums, um, because you can see that you're in a different place, but there are still things that you're working on because there's still things that we all need to work on no matter where we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening that closely. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's talk about how the album was made, because it was,
Sure.
like I said, first one was released in January of 22, and I think you started working on songs for what ultimately ended up being making the cut for Hard to Hold
Yes.
very shortly after that. So this has
Huh?
been a long process. 2 years, 2+ years, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, we thought that this record was going to take a year to a year and a half to make.
Hmm.
And, there were COVID related things at the early phases that kept us from being able to record in a certain way. There were budgetary constraints,
Hmm.
as kind of my life got more and more complicated financially, that were constraints. And then also, my producer moved from being a kind of a contract person that we could rent studios with, and he could go in and engineer, to owning his own studio, now owning his second own studio. So
Right.
there was logistical, financial, and just cultural, world
Sure.
reasons why it took so long. Um, and as we are approaching kind of the finish line, I'm very grateful that it took this long,
Hmm.
because I don't think that I would be as happy with the finished product if we put it out the first time we thought we would, or the second time we thought we
Yeah.
would. Um, so, we started writing probably kind of in an overlap with Tower Songs. A lot
Mhm.
of this process was just, hey, you go to therapy on Friday, you go to Monarch on Tuesdays. That's when you think about yourself, and that's when you think about
Right.
music. And so this process has been ongoing for quite a long time. But the 9 songs that ended up being on the record, 8 that will be public, and then the ninth with the duet with Glory Days.
Mhm.
Those are the ones that kind of made the test of time, I think,
Mhm.
in my brain. So none of these songs are super fresh, um, in terms of what I've been writing recently or what I hope to
Mhm.
continue to write in the future. But it ended up being kind of the ones that stuck. I had a conversation on another podcast last night, and trying to be
Wait, 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 wait,
vulnerable.
wait. You're on other podcasts now?
I was interviewed on another podcast. I'm sorry. Uh,
Well, good. That's good for you.
no,
No,
Top Hill Recording,
yeah.
another
Oh,
local
well, yeah. Those,
Louisville.
those
That
those guys are good. Yeah, those are good folks. You can be
they
on
also
that.
love music and whiskey.
Yes,
um,
they do.
but we were talking about kind of the quest to be vulnerable
Hmm.
in an authentic way, and I think country music, Americana music gets tied in that pigeonhole in a weird way that doesn't necessarily need to be. But
Hmm.
for me, the most beneficial songs that I love and have taken to heart and have been, part of my life at kind of life-saving moments,
Hmm.
have been when somebody shows you themselves for real.
Hmm.
And I'm grateful that all of those delays kind of allowed me to edit down to the point where I felt like this project showed me,
Right.
um, warts and all, happiness and despair and, you know, uh, determination and all the other things that I think go into
Yeah.
this record. Was able to be expressed in a really special way because it took so long to
Yeah.
get this thing to come to fruition. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you start out the album with the 1,476,232nd cover of Angel from
Yes.
Montgomery.
Yes. Yes. Um,
Give or
yes.
take one or two. It's something like that. Yeah.
There's a lot. There's
Yeah.
a lot. So as well as anybody that John Prine is a
Mhm.
hugely influential person in my life and in my writing.
Yep.
I am
Your dog
less
is
than one
named Prime.
percent.
Your
My
dog is
dog is
named
named
Prime.
Prime.
Okay.
Yes. I am less than 1% the songwriter that John Prine will. I'll never hold a flame to him. But he means a lot to me, and
Mhm.
his songs mean a lot to me. And when we were looking at the record, one of the things that we wanted to do was pay homage in one tune to somebody that kind of mattered to
Mhm.
everybody that was in the room. And that ended up being John Prine after we talked about several people. And then when we landed on Prine, Angel from Montgomery was kind of the obvious choice. It
Mhm.
was kind of the first song that made me fall in love with him as a writer,
Right.
and it's also kind of his most well known. So
Sure.
to get into the dirty marketing side of music, we thought, hey, if we do a cover of Angel from Montgomery, we might get some eyes on this thing. So, but we wanted to do it in a very unique way.
Mhm.
And so Renzo and I and a couple of the other people that were involved in making this record, we literally sat down in the studio and listened to almost every cover that we could find. And we found some common themes. Bonnie Raitt has a great cover. It's kind
Yes.
of the main one. And so many other great artists do. But all of them are a little bit on the slower side. They're acoustic guitar driven. And so we really wanted to kind of take our own route on that and do, excuse me, an electric guitar and drums driven cover
Right.
of Angel from Montgomery. So that's why we ended up doing it that way, and how that song, I guess, ended up on the record.
Yeah. No, and it's a very good cover. I've heard you do it live numerous times, probably
Sure.
every time I've seen you live.
Yep.
But y'all did a great job with it,
Well,
and
thank you.
so it's a kind of a way to kind of start out tip of the cap to an influence, and I think that's great. Now, Chestnut Street is a quite it's not like it's the same person who wrote Tower songs. So tell us about
Yeah.
Chestnut Street.
Yeah. So Chestnut Street, was kind of a love song for my wife. Not kind of, it is a love song for my wife.
There she is,
And yes, the lovely and
the
talented
the
Caitlin
lovely and
Crawley.
talented Caitlin.
Yeah. Um, and so, I think as I wrestled with kind of my past and the person that I was aspiring to be,
Mhm,
Caitlin was a huge push to kind of living to a higher standard.
mhm,
And I had kind of this thing in my head, and you and I have talked about this before offline, but I have it in my head that it's impossible to be known and loved. You can either let somebody in all the way and they can know all the dirty secrets in the back of the closet and then they won't love you anymore, or they can love you, but they don't get to know the whole truth.
mhm,
And Caitlin was the first person that I encountered in a relational level, at least in terms of a romantic partner. I have
mhm.
a lot of good friends that have done this for me, but she was kind of the first person that showed me that that was not a mutually exclusive equation. That
Yeah.
he could know everything and have all the mess and all the
Mhm.
good and still love me.
Yeah,
And so this is kind of my thank you
yeah.
to her. And if you listen to the lyrics, it starts multiple verses start out, call 911,
Mhm.
and it ends up on Chestnut Street at the end of every verse.
Yeah.
And you know, don't show up and egg my house, but our address is 911 Chestnut Street. So that was kind of my little tip of the cap
Oh,
to where we
no,
live and the
yeah,
place where all of that transformation and that radical love took place for
mhm,
me
yeah,
was 911 Chestnut.
yeah,
So
yeah, no,
that's what that
and
one's about.
the structure of the song is great. It's very clever the way you pull all that together, and yeah,
Sure.
and that you talked about of her nature, um, it's legit because we've gotten to know your in-laws just a little bit and got to see
Yeah.
them quite frankly this past weekend,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sweetest people that have ever walked the face of the earth,
They're the best.
and um, they're people that can know you and love you, and you know they're wonderful. So that apple didn't fall far from that tree.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Stuck kind of is a little more somber, well, a lot more
Sure.
somber than Chestnut Street. So, uh,
Yep.
but that's one that I think's been out for. You released a single on it
Say it's
year and
been
a
a
half
year and a
ago
half.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So Stuck was kind of I would say it was written along the same time as the songs that ended up on Tower Songs.
Mm,
Um, and the reason we decided to kind of include that was kind of acknowledge the struggle that goes on. I think with a lot of people that deal with addiction or um, deal with
mhm,
shame. And Stuck is a lot about, I think, the thing a lot of those of us that are dealing with those things are dealing with, and it's I am trying my freaking best, and I keep screwing it up, over and over and over. That despite my best intentions, I'm ending up with wrong results.
Mhm.
Um, and that song is early on the album for a reason because hopefully that's not where the story ends.
Yeah.
But I think anybody that is really trying to undergo a process of change goes through a moment of your best intentions aren't working.
Mhm.
Whether that is due to external circumstances, whether that's not because you're doing the internal work, or whether that's you're not really acknowledging what the problem really is.
Yeah.
But that one I think was important to keep on the record, um, because it's a very honest look at, when you end the day over and over and over again, thinking, tried, I really tried, and
Yeah.
it didn't turn out how I wanted to. That's kind of what that one's about. So
Yeah. Yeah. Then Cosmic Joke, that is a fairly relatively recent song, right? Within
yeah,
the last year or so, right?
yeah. Cosmic Joke has been in the world for probably 6 months from the
Yep.
time I first sat down and wrote it. So Cosmic Joke is kind of wrestling with this idea or this thought. I come from a wonderful family of origin. My mom and dad are great people,
Mhm.
but our extended family as a whole is, I say, a long and illustrious line of dirtbags. And there's just all the things that cause trip ups, from addictions to affairs to you know issues with the law and all those kind of
Mhm.
things. And I really grew up thinking that I was above all those things, that I was better than all of that. And over the course of the last few years with my struggles with addiction and divorce and all those other kind of components that go into that, I realized I'm not above all that stuff at all. A lot of it's in my blood, and a lot of it's in the choices that I've made. And so, Cosmic Joke is kind of trying to wrestle with the idea that I have to make the correct choices to outrun or to outlast that legacy
Mhm.
or the things that are maybe in my DNA to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one was tough. I won't lie. That's maybe the most personal song on the record in terms of how I'm operating in the world as it is today. Of
Mhm.
you know, there's a bigger plan than just me and just my choices, but it's really hard to line up with those plans and those things when you're being a knucklehead. So
Well, that's what grace is for.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Uh, yeah. Um, uh, Palomino, that's in the last year or so, right?
Yep, Palomino's been out for a minute. Palomino is kind of the thought behind that, came from a time where I was really struggling in a lot of my interpersonal relationships. Um, with Caitlin, with my best friend, with my brother, with my mom, and it felt like every significant, important relationship in my life was in some sort of turmoil.
Mhm.
And Palomino was kind of my attempt, one day after therapy, to say, I need everybody to slow down for just a second and hang tight. We're going to figure this out. We're going to get this right.
Yeah.
I just need you to hang on until I can figure it out. And
Yeah.
so, if you listen to that song, each verse is kind of directed at a specific relationship,
Mhm.
a specific person, and I don't share who those things are,
Right.
but it's directed around a particular dynamic that was struggling at the time, in the hopes that for those that have those dynamics, especially coming on the tails of you know the relational fallout of bad decisions,
Mhm.
um, there is some hope, or there is kind of the other side of the coin in all those relationships.
Mhm.
And kind of tried to wrap that up in the last two verses of that song, that you know time is going to go by, this shall pass.
Mhm.
If you'll take a minute and hone in with the folks that matter to you, and really focus on those, that things are going to get better. So
Yeah.
the song starts like a little bit of a bummer, but my hope is that it ends with some,
Yeah.
kind of forward thinking
Right.
hope at the end. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Right. Because you're looking at it from the perspective of, uh, I'm working on this. I keep trying this. It isn't working out perfectly just yet. Mm, but just the choice is to get back up off that mat every time.
sure. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it plays into a little bit, kind of my background coming from kind of the agricultural family and
Right.
all those kind of things. If you've ever tried to chase a wild horse, or or get a wild horse back in the uh, paddocks and things like that, it's not an easy thing to do. And a lot of relationships feel like that, where you are wasting your calories and your energy uh, trying to rein other people back in. And
Right.
the best thing you can do is kind of just wait on them, tire them out, and then come alongside them as well.
Right.
So if you ever caught a wild horse, you can't come at them from behind, you can't come at them straight on, you can't run them down. You got to get up. You got to get up next to them
Mm,
and kind of calm them down. And so that was kind of the parallel between the horse metaphor and the
yeah.
relational metaphor in that song.
Yeah.
Probably way over explained that, but
Nope.
there you
No,
go.
it's good. Now, steady and stable. I don't know that I've heard you do that one before, or maybe
Yeah,
you did, and I just missed the newness of it. But
sure.
um, talk about that one.
Yeah. So Steady and Stable is another song kind of about my relationship with my wife.
Mm.
And I don't do it often live because what makes that song special is our mutual friend Kevin Ehoff playing mandolin and 12-string guitar and singing harmonies. So
Very good.
hard to pull off in a solo context, but that was kind of another proving point
Mhm.
to me, and not to get too in the weeds necessarily, but in my previous marriage, the partnership that I had with my ex-wife was not um what's the right way to put this? It wasn't anti-fragile. um
Wasn't
so
anti-fragile.
so
Okay.
if it was tested at all, it broke.
Right.
Um
It,
and
it was neither steady nor stable.
exactly. There you go. You said it way better. I should have just used the title of the song. So um as Caitlin and I have dealt with different, struggles, both self-inflicted and externally, um, one thing that I have genuinely benefited from, and kind of to that grace that you spoke to earlier, she has met me with kind of a level mentality,
Mhm.
um, and a consistency that, oh man, I just can't even express to anyone listening how beneficial that's been,
Yeah.
especially as I tend to be the volatile one. Uh, she's got her emotions and she's got her highs and lows, but I definitely have added lots of complications to our life, and she's consistently met me with grace and stability.
Mhm.
And so that was kind of my own reflection in that relationship, and kind of a thank you for
Yeah.
meeting me where I'm at, with just the same level every single time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a beautiful song. It really
thank
is.
you,
I
thank
I
you.
really
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
and
Um,
appreciate Kevin Ehoff and Lorenzo Venturella on that one, uh, helping kind of take that sad little love song and and making it something really pretty, I think.
yeah, no, it is very pretty, and the instrumentation on it is fantastic. But speaking of instrumentation, um, "Wanna Be Cowboy," is you're playing piano. I'm assuming this
Back
is
on
you
the
playing
piano.
piano, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
yep. Thank you. So, piano was my first love
Mm,
musically. I grew up playing piano in the church. I have a degree in piano, and when my life broke down, 5, 6 years ago now, whatever it's been, since everything kind of hit the fan, I left piano really behind me, and it had a lot of associations with my past life,
mhm,
and all those things. And one of the things that my therapist really encouraged me in is to take piano forward with me into this new phase of life.
mhm.
So right behind me is my piano.
Right.
Uh, And so piano is kind of where most of these songs ended up starting out. I write a lot at the piano, and "Wannabe Cowboy" is it's a little tongue in cheek. Take a page out of John Prine's book, but talking about kind of in this country music or Americana or folk or whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of these folks that do pandering
Hmm.
songs. It's trucks and beer and girls and short shorts and whatever other
Hmm.
things that there are. But
Not that
I
we're
love
against any of those things.
no,
Right.
not me.
Right.
Yeah, those are all wonderful, but this kind of trying to exist in that space, but do it in a way that pays homage to the greats that came before,
Hmm.
um, and also recognizing the reality of if you're not radio, ready, or don't have some kind of appeal, you're not getting played, man.
Hmm.
This song's not going to go anywhere. And so my hope with "Wannabe Cowboy" was to kind of say it's a weird thing to be a kid from a small town that moved to a big city that's pretty adjacent to Nashville,
Hmm.
and trying to navigate what it is and what it isn't, to live in this space. And I don't have a record deal anymore. I'm not on the scene, but I do run in those circles to an extent,
Hmm.
and so that was kind of my attempt to navigate those waters,
Yeah.
so to speak. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's a good song. Uh, I've till I got to listen to the album, I heard you do it live with guitar.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and I like it. I thought it was a good song. I got the tongue in cheek thing with it, but on the album, with the piano, it it really is, takes it up, uh, a notch or 2 for sure. It's beautifully done.
Kind of you to say, man.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get more piano tunes out there in the world, and if you come to the Monarch, you'll hear it on the piano. So
Oh, that's awesome.
we're gonna
Yeah.
have a little
No,
moment.
no, I'll say this. I don't know how many times I've seen you perform, but it's more than, a few. Um, and the times that you've had a keyboard, um, you kinda capture the room when you do that,
Mm,
whether it's the song that you wrote or whether it's a song that you're covering. Um, so, you know, I think
yeah,
that could be something that you could, work in a little more often, and,
sure.
I think
Yeah,
it'd be, well worth it.
yep. Piano is home base for me,
Yeah.
and I think it's taken me a couple of years to get to the point where I can sit there and feel at home
Mhm.
again.
Yeah,
But I'm grateful for that,
yeah.
uh,
Now
for
on the
sure.
album itself, while we're talking about, instrumentation, you played, acoustic guitar and then the piano, right?
Acoustic guitar, piano. There's a couple of electric, parts that remain, a
Mhm,
couple of bass parts that remain, but most of the electric parts were either Evan Sams or Kevin Ehoff,
mhm,
who you know. All of the bass tracks were done by Lorenzo Venturella,
mhm.
and then we had either Mark Krebs or Dylan Tortora
Yeah,
on the drums, just depending on who was available.
yeah.
Our lovely mutual friend Mark Krebs had a little bit of an arm injury. He wasn't available to play drums for the whole record. He will be at the Monarch show playing, but
Yes.
yeah.
Good,
So
good.
an incredible group of people, and then anything that was done live tracked on the
Mhm,
record was done at Gnome Studios in Nashville.
mhm.
And then anything that was kind of a layered or dub tracked was done at Renzo Studio, uh, Alpine. And
Alpine
then,
Studios.
yep, yep.
Yeah. Now, the last song on the album, as it'll be released for streaming services, obviously, you get the vinyl, you get a bonus track. The last song is, one called "Self-Reliance."
Yeah.
So where did that
So
come from?
self reliance was it, it might have been the first or second song I started writing for the record.
Mhm,
It's been the longest running one. But self reliance was kind of a theme. And if anyone's familiar with the works of Ralph Waldo Emerson,
Mhm.
He wrote a series of poems. I don't know if you want to call them a poetic essay or a long form essay with some poems in it,
Right.
but there's a booklet um, called Self Reliance, and it was recommended to me by somebody else that's also in recovery, and I really struggled with the idea in 12-step programs and with my religious background of surrendering to a higher power and in a way that I couldn't control anything.
Mhm.
And I'm more than willing to admit that I don't have control over my addictions. Um, but giving that over to somebody else was really, really hard for me. And I've arrived at a slightly different place on that now. But when I wrote Self Reliance, the idea was I don't need other people's input when it comes to making the right choices
Mhm.
or to get clean
Mhm.
or to be a kind and loving person.
Mhm.
And so I think self reliance is really important, kind of in my own personal journey of exploring the idea that the person that really needs to change and be in the driver's seat, so to speak, was not my friends, was not my family, was not my religion, was not, you know, Narcotics Anonymous, was not anything else other than me saying, I'm doing this
Mhm.
and whatever y'all say can kick rocks, so to speak. So self-reliance was really kind of a turning point in my own journey with getting clean and
Mhm.
things of that nature, to say, this is what I'm doing. You can get with the program or not.
Right.
And that was kind of a turning point that was very helpful for me,
Mhm.
to say that to myself and to everyone else. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question at
Yeah.
all, but
Yeah.
that's
Uh,
kind of the thought behind that one.
yeah. No, it starts with you and your choice,
Mm,
right?
hmm.
Because if you're relying on if you're relying on your parents, or if you're relying on your wife, or you're relying on your friend, then if you aren't successful in that, then
Hmm.
it can be, well, I didn't get enough support from this person, or
Yep.
they weren't available when I really needed them at that second. So it's not my fault, it's theirs.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
There's a scapegoat.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the lines in there is, you uh, build a house upon stone, but sand is free.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's very deep. What does that mean to you?
That's a good question. So, for those that are familiar with, the parable of the man that built the house on the sand and the man that built the house on the stone, um, the thing for me was, obviously there's a different connotation in the
Mhm.
biblical parable, right? There's a different result. So I'm not trying to borrow from that or change that meaning, but for most of my life, what I was searching for was the surety and the conviction that I had the right answers to
Mhm.
something. And I tried to build a house on stone that if I believed the right way and acted the right way, everything would be okay.
Mhm.
And when that notion was completely dispelled in my life, what I realized was, the metaphor of sand is kind of an ever changing, ever
Mhm.
evolving thing. And you don't have to give up all of the important things to you to have a concrete set of beliefs or convictions or surety. If you are sure in yourself, you can stand in the sand and it doesn't cost you anything. The circumstances around you can change, the folks in your life can change, the things that you need to do for yourself
Mhm.
can change, um, and that's free.
Mhm.
And so, kind of being able to go with those things moving forward. And you and I have talked offline. We're pretty close friends, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh, about the convictions and all that kind of stuff, but really in that time of life when self-reliance was written, I needed to divorce myself from the need to be certain about things
Mhm.
and really kind of say, okay, this is life on life's terms, and if I'm going to make it through life on life's terms, I have to put those convictions to myself, not an external set of beliefs or an external relationship. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where that came from.
Okay. It may be my favorite on the album.
Thank you.
Um, I to me, and I think all the songs are great. I think you've done an excellent job with this. Um, I think the last three are probably your strongest vocals on the
Mm,
album, with Steady and Stable, Wannabe Cowboy, and Self Reliance. Um, and I think there's a real uh, complexity from a musical standpoint on those songs as well. That to me they just spoke differently to me.
mm,
And that's not to say I don't love the others, because I do, and I think some of these are uh, again, from a personal relationship standpoint, I understand that the times that they mark for you,
hmm
and I'm proud of you for what you've written, to memorialize that, and to share that and be transparent about that. But I think the last three are probably, I think it crescendos um, to an appropriate conclusion on the album.
Thank you for listening so intentionally. I feel the same way.
Mhm,
A lot of the vocals got redone in the
mhm,
last few months as we kind of crossed the finish line with recording. But the sequencing of the album is very much on purpose. So
mhm.
thank you for picking up on that.
Yeah. Um, so we've got an album release party coming up
Yes, October
Thursday,
17th at the Monarch.
March 17th. We have an album coming out midnight, October 18th.
Hmm
So maybe a dumb question, but what's next?
Yeah. Um, so what's next is we are trying to get this in as many hands as we possibly can. So we'll be doing a short run through West Virginia, short run through Ohio
Mhm,
in the fall, and continuing to play around Louisville. We've submitted to as many radio stations as we can
mhm.
locally, and in Chicago, Cincy, Charleston,
Mhm.
Nashville. So we're trying to do as much as we can around this record to get it in as many ears and hands as possible.
Yep.
Um, Beyond that, I think we'll continue to write songs, and there's a notebook full of songs sitting 2 feet to my left at the
Yep.
moment. So we're going to continue to make music and to write and to record and release and all those kind of things. But I think kind of my main hope with this is that if anybody has been through something similar to what I have been through, whether it be in loss or recovery or in redemption of the things that you thought were irredeemable, that kind of our main focus right now is just to hope to help some of those people, just like I've been helped by the folks that have helped me. So
Yeah.
um, that was a non-answer there, but
No,
that's
it's a
that's
good
what we're
answer.
going after there, man.
No, it's a good answer. It's a great answer. So, any closing thoughts on the album? Uh,
Yeah.
Anything
Um,
else?
I hope you'll listen to it. I'm really proud of it. I'm very, very grateful for the people that helped make it possible.
Mhm,
Not only the team that worked on the record and played on the record, but for the folks that kind of listened along the way. Yourself and Cindy
mhm,
being among those. Scott Smith, Dusty Bow, Mark Roberts, just everybody that kind of kept pushing me
mhm.
to edit and to make sure that this is the best thing it could possibly be. Just grateful to everybody, and then for those that may listen to this episode, I hope you'll listen. I hope you'll stream. I hope you'll share.
Mhm.
I hate doing the commercial marketing side of this gig, but please do.
Yep.
It means a lot. And if you have an Alexa device at home, or if you have a Spotify playlist that you put on at work or on the commute to work, throw a song or two off the record on there. It means more to local independent artists than you could possibly know.
Mhm.
And all of those numbers mean something. So,
Yeah. And just for you specifically, but for local artists everywhere, I
mhm.
mean, support through sharing, liking, uh, posting, telling friends, going to shows, buying tickets, buying merch, do all of those things. There's a list of probably 20 things that you can do
Mhm.
that don't cost you a penny to support local artists like Drew. Uh,
Absolutely.
and then there are things that you can do that will cost you a penny, but in the big picture of things, if you're spending 10, $20 to go see a local artist that you're going to get a chance to probably talk to after the show, who will recognize you the next time you go to one of their shows. Um, and they will truly appreciate you and your support. That's so much better than spending hundreds of dollars to go see Taylor Swift or
Sure.
someone of that ilk.
Yeah.
And that's not to knock Taylor Swift. It's just there are a lot more effective ways you could spend your entertainment dollar
Yep.
if you chose to do so.
It means the world to us. And if you want to take any money that you want to spend on a Morgan Wallen ticket and come see me and the boys, please do. I'd appreciate that on multiple
Yep.
levels.
Yes. So as you get the tour dates settled for where all you're going to be playing,
Of
obviously, um, you'll let me know, and we'll post
course.
everything everywhere here, and get the word out.
Absolutely.
Get the
Look
word out.
forward to it. It's gonna be a fun fall. Lot of good music, a lot of
Yep.
good dates with the boys. So
Yep.
looking
All
forward
right.
to it. Yeah. Check us out. Instagram is drew.crawley63, drewcrawleymusic.com, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you listen to music. And then if you're in the local area, even if you're not in the local area, send me a DM, send me a text, send me an email. We'll get a vinyl in your hand. We can get merch in your hands, whatever we need to do
Get a
there.
hat. You can get a hat
Yes.
and a vinyl. Uh, you,
And
you'll autograph those, right? Yeah.
absolutely. Sure. I
Yeah.
don't think I'm qualified to sign autographs yet, but sure.
And did you
I'll get
make
it
it?
done.
Did you make it? You made it. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And if you come to a show, you can probably get a picture with him. That'd be pretty cool too.
Come
Um,
around.
yeah. All right. Well, Drew, man, this has been a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again soon. I think the last time we did this was about 9.5 months ago.
Yeah.
So we gave birth to another show here in 9 months. So
Love
we'll
it.
we'll need to do this again before 9 months. But at any rate, be sure to check out Hard to Hold anywhere you stream on October 18th. And then you can reach out to drewcrawleymusic.com. And he will get you a vinyl in your hand if you want it. As for our show, you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on your favorite podcast platforms. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows, including this one. We have a Facebook group where we'll post what we may be drinking, what we might be listening to while we're drinking it, and odd news and, you know, anniversaries of great albums being released and who knows what else. So check us out. We'd appreciate it. We love to have artists on like Drew, especially Drew, because Drew's a great friend and means so much to this show, but even more so means so much to me. So with all that being said, on behalf of Drew and myself, until next time, cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers.
Night.
Good night.